Welcome back to the In the Arena podcast. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm really excited about today's episode. Today I'm talking to a good friend of mine, one of the guys that I went to Missouri State with and had the pleasure of playing football and college soccer alongside. His name is Nick Hibbeler. He has an incredible story, a story that is full of challenges and adversity, and one of the toughest things to be told as a 16-year-old lad, that you have testicular cancer. And I don't want to go into too much detail about his story and the lessons, because he provides so much information and insight in this that I know for a fact you'll take something out of this today. The amount of value in this podcast is incredible, and I'm very, very, very grateful to call Nick a friend and to have him here sharing his story. So guys, without further ado, let's step into the arena. Hibbs, bro, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to In the Arena, man. We've just had a real good catch up just in the brief couple of seconds that we've caught up. But bro, welcome, man. It's so good to have you on finally.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thanks for the invite. I've been following this, man, and I'm excited to catch up with you and share some of our stories, and maybe some people can benefit with it, relate to it. So that's what we're here for, man. So.
Yeah, it's been a challenge for the people listening when they don't know. Whereabouts are you based right now? Obviously, I'm coming live from Finland, but we've been trying to catch up and get these time zones right. So you're in KC, right, in the Midwest?
Yes, sir. Kansas City, Missouri, home of the Super Bowl champions. That's right.
That's class. So for the people who don't know, me and Hibbs met each other at Missouri State University. He came. What year did you come onto the team?
That's a good question. I think it was 2016 and 2017. So. Yeah, and it was the first day I think that I really remember you was running the mile test, man. And I think it was your first day introduction to the team. And for anyone who knows about college sport and the testing, it can be a bit daunting when you're coming into a team. And you were the only one who came in at that time by yourself, so you were the only new guy, and you wanted to make a statement right out from the get-go. I remember it's for a mile test, it's 4 laps of a track for anyone who doesn't know. And Hibbs went out and sprinted 800 meters right off the bat. And oh my days, I've never seen anyone die so hard in a test in my life. That was class, man. But that was an introduction to your mindset straight away. I do remember that. But bro, I just want to hear about your story, man. I'm gonna let you have control, and you said that you've come a bit prepared for this. So let us know, man. What have you got in store? What do you want to tell us? Yeah, man. Well, like I said, I appreciate you having me. And, from the time I first met you, I saw your mindset too, your dedication, your desire, your hunger. And I think, that's why years later we're on a podcast from across the world with each other, catching up. But I think it all started for me, man, was COVID was a big year. I was living on my own. And like you were saying with your situation, like when you get older, it's a spotlight on your character and your habits and what you're doing on a daily basis. And I remember just being so lonely, and you couldn't go out to the grocery store or go to the movies, catch up with friends. So that was a big time for my life, and it made me reflect. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I was carrying with me, like a lot of heavy weight. So for those of you that don't know, within like the last decade, I'd say when I was 16, I actually got diagnosed with cancer. Right when I kind of finished that up, still was playing soccer at the time, tore my ACL. Had to have a lot of surgeries, had to recover all over again. So I was out of the sport that I loved, and my ego, my lifestyle was all into soccer. So that was a huge adjustment, and it taught me a lot. And that's the thing that I was really here to talk about, was strive, like we were talking about it, man. It's like everything in life seems to be a mindset, like a desire to want something. And like what I really told myself in this situation that I was handed is like, life is really coming. If you base it down, life's coming from you. It's not really coming at you. Because if you really take a look at it, like, we're so small in the universe and everything is constantly changing. And I was like, okay, like, sometimes I feel like I'm really high with my emotions and really low. And that comes from the expectations that I have on myself and the results that I want in my life. And I told myself, like, what can I do to kind of slow things down to really become confident in any situation? Because at the end of the day, you can't really control the results. And I realized, like, life is constantly changing. So really the only thing we could do for inner happiness and inner confidence is just looking at the way how we react to change that's coming in our life. And I think that was really important to me. And it taught me a lot of things. Like, I really started looking at everything around me. I started looking at the people who I wanted to be like, who I idolized. I was looking for a mentor because, as you know, there's so many resources. You can learn so much from everyone, and time is so valuable, man. Everything's expiring. So if you can really connect with someone and you can learn from them, I think it just speeds up the process. And what I learned from the confidence is, everything is a law of large numbers. So if you really remove the excuses, like, I have never seen someone show up every day that has the same enthusiasm, the same encouragement, the same confidence to do the process. Because it's really like, as you know, Stroud, you put your head down, you work, look up, nothing's changed. Work, nothing's changed. Work. And then it's like overnight, 3 or 4 things pop off, and you're just feeling so successful. And I think that's where you have to have the emotional intelligence to understand. It's really about the process of doing things. Like, you're really not losing. It's a lesson. When you're winning, it's a lesson. As long as you're learning and evolving, I think, that's the whole purpose of life. And what you're doing here, man, starting a podcast from nothing, and just interviewing some of these people, like, I've listened and I've learned so much from that stuff. And I think in life, like, what you invest your time in, there's got to be a return on investment. So I'm really happy to be chatting with you, and I'm curious kind of like how you've dealt with things like obstacles that come in your way, when there's pressure, just some of that stuff from your end.
Oh, first of all, bro, thank you. Thanks for tuning in and listening, and to say that you've got some things and taking things away from it. That's all I could hope for one person, just to gain some kind of information from someone's story. And that's why I wanted to talk to you, because I know that you've got an incredible story, and you did touch on it briefly, right? So let's go to that point. 16 years old, you got diagnosed with cancer. That's heavy for a 16-year-old or any human at any age, right? You probably don't even know who you are. Not many of us do at that age. We're just trying to figure ourselves out. All we're pretty much focused on is usually pleasing other people and trying to fit in and trying to just understand and be liked by people at that stage. So tell me, how was that for you? What happened? What did you go through?
Yeah, it was the craziest thing. I remember I went to one of those soccer camps, like college ID camps, and it was at Denver University for soccer, and it was like one of my dream schools. And I had to come back to do a sports physical for high school soccer. And I just remember, I had heard someone else a couple years older than me kind of going, it was testicular cancer. So I've heard of some people doing it, and I know it was a very common cancer at that age. But when I went in there that day, I just got a weird feeling, man. Like, my doctor was actually out on vacation, so there's another guy filling in. And I just remember sitting there, and I just had this weird vibe. And, like, I envisioned myself walking into the room and, like, what it would smell like, what it would feel like, what the doctor looked like, his voice. And it was like everything I imagined happened like that. And he said, something's not right. Well, I ended up going. I remember it was my friend's birthday, so I went to a pool party, and later that night I come home and my mom's like, Nick, we have to have a surgery tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. It's like 16 years old, man. Like, okay. So then you have to, wait a week. They come back, and, it's like you always think that would happen to someone else, but it would never happen to you. Everything, man. And I remember her sitting me down on the couch. She's like, Nick, the doctors called. They told that you do have cancer. We had to wait 3 weeks to find out what stage. And I just remember I was 16 years old, and I was just like, I felt like there was so much pressure, and like there was nothing behind me. It was like my back was up against a wall, and I was like, you know what, Nick? Like, what can I do in this situation? Like, the only thing that I can do is the thoughts that I'm feeding myself, because life at this moment in time is happening right now, in the present moment. You're not thinking about the future. You're not thinking about the past. That's a life-changing event. And I started using my resources. I started following people like Brian Tracy, started to listen to him a lot. Tim Grover, who actually trained Michael Jordan, just a lot of the self-help mindset things. And I was just like, okay, like, this is who we are. And I was 16. I was looking for everything. And now looking back, I was proud of what I did, because I also started to tap into science. And I've never been into science, man. Like, you know me, bro. Like, communications major. But I found something interesting. There was a guy, and he was saying that, nothing can be created or destroyed, therefore it already exists. And I started looking into the universe and like the energy that's there. And there's constant energy around us, good or bad. Everything's always changing. And the best doctors in the country were helping me with my chemotherapy. And they're like, hey, Nick, your thoughts, when you have a positive thought, it is telling trillions of cells in your body good things, and that fights off cancer cells. And I was like, that's all I needed to hear. From that point on, and it really changed my life. And I realized like there's constantly cells are dying, and we're also creating new cells. So you can really rewire your brain, your body, how you react. So what I did is I started looking at like the subconscious, and it's like, okay, well, how does that work? You take a picture. It could be good or bad. Your subconscious can't tell the difference. It doesn't know. It's just whatever you tell it, it's going to happen. Like what you're constantly fascinating about, what you're constantly thinking about, you do become that. And it was kind of wild because I started doing that, and we started getting the test results back from the chemo. It started working. I started feeling better. And it was challenging because at that age, if I cry, I thought about this. If I cry, my mom is only going to cry 10 times harder, and then my sisters are going to cry. And I was like, this is an opportunity to show everyone that you can be mentally tough, you can be strong, you can get through any obstacle that's in front of you if you have a good, healthy mindset. Because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that I could control. I couldn't control the results, but I could control how I showed up every day, the process of going through there and doing it. And it was fascinating, man, because what you really want is already there. So if you already say, I'm cancer free, like when I got diagnosed, I was always like, I'm cancer free. Like I will become cancer free. I'm already that cancer free person. I imagined myself with my hair back, how I'd look, how I'd feel. And it was just like, when you match that level of frequency, if you go on a high frequency, the vibrational energy will just constantly attract. Same thing with the negative things. Like, if I tell you, don't make a bad pass, your brain's just don't make a bad pass, don't make a bad pass. You constantly think it. So that was a huge life-changing event for me, for the good or bad. As you know, in soccer, you deal with injuries, maybe not a good coach, playing time, you don't fit the system. I've had plenty of struggles in soccer as well, and that was kind of like my passion and focus to get out of the cancer. And I always said, I'm going to play D1 and I want to play in Europe. I don't care how it happens. I don't care the way it happens. I don't care if it's ugly. I don't care if I'm the best player. But as I say, man, like if you hang around the barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut. It's like we were saying. It's true, man. I've literally just never seen someone that constantly shows up with the same attitude. If you fail over and over and over again, but you still show up with that confidence, that swagger, it's going to happen. You know what I mean? So that definitely was something that was like my foundation moving forward. And now I sell insurance. Same thing, man. It's like it's a lot of large numbers. The more you do, the more familiar you are with that situation. And when you don't hesitate, you're reacting on your instincts. And that's how you become hyper successful. That's what the hyper competitive individuals do. They're not focused on winning. They're focused on becoming a winner, the process of it, going to practice. It's not about the game. It's about what you're doing in practice leading up to it. Because so many things can change, but how are you handling either the wins or the losses? So, but yeah, man, that's just kind of where it came from.
Mate, that's thanks for going into that and sharing that kind of detail on that experience. There's a lot to unpack in that itself. First of all, don't dog on the communication majors, because I know there's a few of us out there that are still repping it and going hard. Secondly, bro, that mindset is what winners are, right? That is what creates, and that's that habit, like you said, just showing up. It is legitimately showing up, but with that attitude. In the start, sometimes I find it can be in different situations. Everyone's got their own battles going on, right? Sometimes half of the battle is legitimately just showing up. You may have a negative mindset. You may really struggle. Maybe it's that, you know what, today I don't feel like going to the gym. I don't feel like eating healthy. You know what, I just don't feel like doing this shit today. But if you just put your shoes on, if you walk out the door, if you show up, sometimes that's just half the battle there. And it's, you know what, I'm just going to do that one rep in the gym. And then it's like, you know what, that wasn't so bad. and then all of a sudden you get the next one done, and then the next one done, and then all of a sudden things just start to compile on top of each other, right? So like, it's quite an incredible lesson to learn at that age. 16 years old is very young to be exposed to the likes of Brian Tracy. Did you get into any like Dr. Joe Dispenza with the mindset?
Man, absolutely. I everything that I could get my hands on or listen to, that's what I was constantly doing. Everything had to, because I told myself, no matter the results or the opinions, if I have a purpose, then nothing else matters. Because if I have the desire and the purpose, I can get through anything. The outside noise, the medicine, the surgeries, whatever it was, if it didn't align with my vision, I wasn't worried about it. Everything that I was doing, like you were saying, I remember too, even past the cancer, that's one thing that really stood out to me is, like you said, I remember even now, it's helped in every aspect of my life, with my job, with my family, with my friends. But like you said, like when that alarm goes off, if you just put the shoes on and you drive to the gym and you just do the one rep, there's days where I just don't feel like doing it, and I show up to the gym, and if I've already taken myself to the gym, I'm 100% going to work out. And what I found is that it's kind of a snowball effect. When you show up, you just do the one rep, it starts to get you going. You start to get in your head, you start to gain that confidence. And then I've started to notice when I get towards the end of the set, towards the end of the workout, I'm like, one more, do one more rep, do one more set. And that's where I start to see the law of large numbers come into existence. And that's where I think you really separate yourselves from individuals, is where you can remove their excuses and you only focus on the results. And that's just showing up and doing the process. And you have to almost woo yourself into existence. Like, you have to like play mind games with yourself just to start. But I think that's where that confidence comes from. It's the long-term vision, and you're just getting through the short-term excuses. Because like we said, if you see someone that shows up and they're working, no results, working, but they keep doing it and then the results happen, the people that fail, they lose confidence after maybe 1, 2, or 3 failures, and they're the ones that are just making the excuses, trying to bring the other people down. And I think it just is a callous for your mind. And I think the gym's done everything for me, to be honest with you. That's where it all starts. So
yeah, it's fascinating. It's this is quite a, I don't want to make this conversation dark, because of the energy. I know your energy, and you vibrate on such a high frequency. I can feel it. Like, I can feel it, and people feel it through your voice and how you are. And I remember it being in person. It's infectious. But and that's such a positive trait of you, Brian. That's how I remember you so well. But death is it's a subject that's not talked about a lot, because people are afraid of it, and people are afraid of death. But when it comes to being diagnosed with something like cancer at the age of 16, all of a sudden, not many 16-year-olds are thinking about that. Not many are thinking about, this is actually a reality. As you said, like, you thought, cancer, that's something that happens to someone else. It doesn't happen to me, right? And it's like, it's the death thing as well. At that age, it can be like, that happens to other people, doesn't happen to me. To be confronted by something that is associated with death, and that being such a reality, that doesn't actually, it gives you no choice but to fight, right? It gives you no other choice, but you don't have other choice but to fight, and just to give everything that you have. And then you do create that positive mindset. So has that carried over in something that you think about a lot, and just how finite we actually are?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And I think that is something that I've carried with me every single day for the rest of my life, is I realize that, every single day we're expiring. You never know what the end is going to be. So really, like, the life that you live is your message to people around you. And that's the one thing that I've kind of told myself, is focus on the things that you can control. And in that situation, when I was diagnosed, I said, okay, Nick, like, how is this going to happen? I was like, the only thing that I have control over are my thoughts and my energy. And that is what I can control. And I know that what I think that I will become, it was just constant. And of course, when I heard the news, because as soon as you hear the word cancer, you associate it with death. It's obviously an awful thing to hear. And that was the thing. I was just like, you know what, that thought is not even going to enter my mind. And I remember the first week was really hard, but it was like, I wouldn't say I was lying to myself, but I was just, if I had one bad thought, I would replace it immediately with three good thoughts. And that is just repetition. And that's how your subconscious can react to things, is through repetition. And if you have a vision of where you want to be, it's almost a blueprint of everything that happens to you and everything that unfolds in front of you. And you can almost change the lens, because obviously there's a lot of negative things in life. Like, there's constant change, good or bad. Like, it's just reality. Like, I know in a couple of years that there's just going to be things that happen, and I realized what I was thinking and doing at that present moment, usually there'd be like a 2 week delay. So for example, like, I'd have to do one round of chemotherapy, and then I'd have 2 weeks off, and that was kind of the cycle. And I ended up having to do 6 rounds of that. And I remember I was like, okay, when I go through the chemotherapy Monday through Wednesday, you don't feel too bad. Thursday and Friday you start to feel it. Saturday, Sunday, Monday you felt awful. And then the next week you slowly start getting better, and then the week after that you feel great. And I realized those 2 weeks off were the most important times, because you're around your family, you try to relax. Because, I mean, if you think about it, they're building you up just to hit you again with all the chemotherapy drugs to really try to kill those cancer cells. So that was a really important thing, was trying to focus on what I can control and how to react to everything. And I also told myself too, like, everything that I'm doing from here on out, and I remind myself, like, now, I don't take anything for granted. As soon as I wake up, man, I literally just go over everything that I'm grateful for. And that just, to me, brings an abundance of opportunities for that day. If I wake up and I get a workout in, and then I just am thankful for everything that I have and everything where I've come from, everything I start to see a beautiful opportunity come up in sales, a beautiful opportunity to jump on your podcast, maybe to build a relationship with the person down the street or one of my neighbors. Because, like you said, life is truly what you make it. And I think that was a huge lesson for me, was to take nothing for granted anymore, and to really open up my eyes and not let anything pass by. So
it's powerful, man. It's such an incredible mindset to have. And I think the practice of gratitude every single day, as you said, like when you wake up, I think that is so powerful, bro. It's like, it really does set the standard for the rest of your day. It really sets, and as you said, like, it makes you almost aware of the opportunities that can be. And it's almost like when I find, like, when I am not grateful for the little things, or I'm not consciously aware of it, it's like you can miss out on opportunities that you don't even realize. As you said, it could just be networking with someone. It could be just one conversation. Like, you could be one talk away from changing your life completely. One person that can impact your life in such a positive way. And having that gratitude, and I guess it creates that abundance mindset, right? It's like, you know what? There are great things out here for me. There are incredible opportunities around the corner. And I think Tony Robbins has an incredible saying. It's like, life is working for you, not to you, right? It's like, even the shittest things in life, somehow, somewhere, there is something in this for you that you're going to learn from. There's something that you'll take away from this, where it's going to create an opportunity somewhere else. And I do think about that. Like, I'm grateful for some of the toughest times that I've been through myself, like, because of that fact. It gives you the strength to go through other challenges. Like the time at Missouri State when I went through my darkest and the hardest time of my life. It's like, when I look back on that, if I didn't go through that, there is absolutely no way, bro, that I'd be able to live this year in Finland by myself. Like, and going through even the challenges, like on the field, off the field, just living in a bit of isolation, being quite lonely. Like, there's no way, if I didn't go through that hard time, that I would have had the resilience to be able to actually deal with it by myself, to be able to have the courage to reach out to someone and be like, you know what, I am genuinely struggling right now, and how can I change what I'm doing and make the most of the situation? It creates new opportunities and everything somewhere down the line, which is really special. And one of the things that you said is, like, football, soccer was just a massive passion for you. It was just such a massive kind of goal to get back out there and play in D1, which obviously you achieved at being at Missouri State, which was awesome, but you also wanted to play in Europe. So did you do that pre-college? Was it your experience over in Europe before Missouri State?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So my freshman year, I played D1 soccer at University of Wisconsin Green Bay. I did that for a year, coming off of an ACL surgery my senior year, and then I went to Spain for 1 year. Then came to Missouri State at that time, and I really was really happy to go to Missouri State. I remember I was training with Sporting KC that summer. Heard a lot of good things. Had a conversation with the coach. And at that time too, from my previous year in Spain, there are people that were talking with my team, and I found out that my great-grandparents obviously came over from Italy. So I saw an opportunity to get my Italian dual citizenship, and as you know, they only have so many foreign roster spots in Europe. Well, obviously, Brazil, Argentina, a lot of those countries just have so much talent, and I was just like, that's a great opportunity. Went to Missouri State, obviously crossed paths with you and so many great individuals, not only fantastic athletes, but just solid people that you want to be around. You know what I mean? You can only gain from them. And the brotherhood that we had there was truly amazing. And then shortly after that, I went back over to Spain. And then, like you said, man, like I was all by myself. And I think when you can adapt to situations and understand that you need resources, because you're never going to be able to do it on your own. And what I realized is, I may not know all the answers, but I know people that do. And then I can gain so much from them and take what I like. And I always like to say, I take it to the bank. And that's with everything. And that taught me something, like you said, when you're alone, you learn the most about yourself. And it's very hard. And if anyone says it's easy, I don't believe them. I think it's very challenging because you really have to open up and look in the mirror and kind of dissect yourself. But the truly great thing is you can go from there and really build the life that you want from that vision. You can start to be around people that motivate you, people that have a healthy lifestyle, like a specific diet, go to the gym, are competitors, they like to win. What they're doing in their free time, like the fact that we're doing this on our weekend, where is it? It's probably close to bedtime where you're at. But the fact that you're taking the time out to dive into something where you'll get a return on investment, I think that's what makes life beautiful, because you're learning and you're evolving, and you can share that message with other individuals. And what I've really learned from all that, Ben, is that in order to receive, you have to serve. So you have to serve others, and then you can come back to reap that harvest. And that's something that is truly great. And I'm like I said, I'm super proud that you're starting this coming from that. It's a great opportunity not only for you, but so many other individuals. And life is just full of opportunities. So, and here we are, man, so.
Thanks, brother. No, I do appreciate it. What was it like, man, going, like, you say that when you're alone, you do learn a lot about yourself. So tell me, like, when you were alone, when you were on that journey, what was the kind of things that you started to figure out? What was some of the challenges and the processes that you used to dissect yourself and to actually understand who you were?
That's a great question, because a lot of the people would probably think the surgeries and the chemotherapy and all that would be the hardest part, but it was not. It was coming home from the hospital, trying to go to bed at night. It was when you're in the car driving to the hospital before you're about to have a surgery, or a life-changing major surgery, I should say, or receive drugs for 8 hours. I mean, because I've always thought of it too, like, and here's a great example of kind of how I felt. If there's an individual who's going to go skydiving, a week in advance, it is what it is. A couple days it approaches, you're like, all right. And then the night before, some people could lose sleep, like, oh my gosh, I'm about to jump out of a plane tomorrow, this and that, it's crazy, like, how's that going to be? And I realized, I was like, you're wasting so much time and energy thinking about something that hasn't even happened yet, and something that you don't even have control over. And that is something that I would say that I mastered. It kind of left me, but in that situation, it was the only choice I had, obviously. And it was fascinating, because I'd almost become like on autopilot, like, nothing, it doesn't matter if something happens over here or something happens over there, like nothing good or bad was going to throw me off of what I had to go and do that day. And I just didn't. It was the craziest thing, man. It was like I said, autopilot. Like it was just everything was happening in the present moment. There was no past, there's no future. Like I said, if we were driving to the hospital and like there was a car wreck to the right, or like my mom lost her keys, or my sisters were arguing, whatever it was, nothing was taking away my vibe. It was. That's one thing that really helped me, and like breathing techniques too, man. Like just like taking a deep breath and then taking a couple short breaths after. I mean, it can just really relax you. And like, you know, another thing I did too is I was looking at like Navy SEALs, their training, is how you can cope with situations and pressure. And I've always said this, like those were high pressure moments, like for the surgeries. Another example, if there's a big soccer game that you're about to play in, there could be, a ton of people watching you. They could have a ton of opinions about you. There's so much outside noise. If you have a big sales pitch that you have to give the next day. And I told myself, okay, I was like, this is a great time for me to really learn about myself and tailor who I want to be. Because I think pressure exposes who you are, but more importantly, it can turn you into what you want to become. And that to me was a big one. And I was 16 when all that happened. So like you said, man, was it one of the worst things that ever happened to me? Yes. But was it one of the best things that ever happened to me? Absolutely. Because it's brought me to people and it's taught me so much, and it's helped me connect with so many other great individuals from across the world. So that's just kind of how I related to it and kind of got through it, man.
Does like you mentioned like breathing techniques, like, and where did you get that? Where did you get that from? Like, who did you learn that from? Was it just like having conversations with other people? Was it online? And does that like really help you just like be present in that moment, just to like be like, right, this is what I've got in front of me. This is it. Like, let's just deal with this moment right here.
Absolutely, man. I can't. Like I said, YouTube was a huge resource even back then to me when I was 16, and I'm a visual learner, so I was constantly looking just for anything that could help. And the one thing that I learned about it is you're eliminating all the excuses and all the distractions, because your mind your mind is just constantly has thoughts. Like it is, your mind is not your soul. And I realized that, and I was like, okay, like what are these breathing techniques? And I saw like Tiger Woods, like Cristiano Ronaldo before he does a free kick. Like Elon Musk does these, and he does like tapping methods, like just these little details. Because the people at that level, all the little details add up. That is how they're so separated from other individuals, and they're hyper successful, high achievers, high performers. And I'm like, what are they doing? Like, how are they handling all this stress with all these people relying on them? How are they building that confidence and that skill set? And when you do those breathing techniques, the only thing that you can focus on is that breath. And that is the essential task in front of you. And I've realized the people that are so successful, they only focus on one thing at a time. Like I said, you could be answering an email, listening to music, maybe checking Instagram, this and that. But the other individuals, they just eliminate everything and focus on the essentials that are going to get them to that goal. And that to me was very important, because like you said, when you have a disease and an illness, there's nowhere to go but forward. You can't go backwards, so.
Yeah, I'm interested in how you carry that over into life today, because like, you're in insurance, and that's a pretty hectic business on its own, and you get success at different levels. But not only that, like, dude, you're a dad as well. Like, it's balancing all of these different things. So staying present in each moment with the pressure of providing and doing other things, has that really impacted how you operate on a day-to-day now?
Yeah, absolutely, man. That was one of the best blessings that I've ever had with my son, Benny. And now, man, it's just like everything that I view, everything's changed. I'd say everything has just like increased, like my effort, my energy, my confidence, because I've always said, especially as a father figure, you need to walk the walk, not talk the talk. You need to lead by example. If you're a leader, someone will follow, and the actions always speak louder than the words. And a big thing that I've learned, especially with my son, he can't talk quite yet. He can mumble, but he can see everything that's going on, and you better believe that he's absorbing everything that he is seeing. And I've always said, what is known does not have to be spoken. Like, what you are doing on a daily basis will speak volumes. And I'm just a person that, when I see an individual who shows up every day, does what he has to do without looking for any credit or anyone to give him applause, I respect that. And I think that's something that I'm trying to do with my son. And when he was born, I was like, okay, it's been pretty good up until here, and now I have the best blessing. So now whatever I've done, I have to 10 times increase that. And it's made me, reach out to resources to get smarter, sharper, more efficient, and make sure I'm using my time more wisely so I can maximize my success while still having that balance of raising my son and being with my family and kind of having a difference between the professional life and the personal life. And it's amazing, man. Like, I think in order to be, super successful in whatever endeavor you choose, whether that be business, sports, entertainment, whatever it is, you have to live a relaxed lifestyle to be able to unwind, to remain calm so you can have a clear, focused detail of where you want to be at. And how you want to raise your children too, man, because everything that I'm doing right now, and you can ask any parent, you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of any other individual. And I think that all comes with kind of like having that vision and just attracting the lifestyle that you want. And when it presents itself, it's almost like a blueprint. You've been there, you take it, and my son can see that, and that's all I can ask for. And obviously he's going to see a lot of other bad things too, but hopefully not as many as the good things, because we're not all perfect. But that's been a huge blessing in my life, especially with everything that happened in the past. So.
Yeah, man, that's wicked. And first of all, what a name, great name. But secondly, man, I want to go back to actions speak louder than words, because that's something that I've really been thinking about a lot lately. It's I've been reading a lot of Stoic stuff. So Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. I'm reading Discipline is Destiny by Ryan Holiday right now. And one of the things that they talk about a lot is that we were given 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, right? It's because listening is very, very, very important, and being able to control what we speak. And this might be a bit hypocritical right now because I've got a podcast and I speak a lot, but like just trying to understand that, especially in a leadership position, bro, like I find this in football. I've been really thinking about who I want to be as a leader, the person I want to be. And it's just, I think it's so important to realize that by showing up and doing the things on a consistent basis, and more how I perform with my attitude when I show up. This comes back to what John Leamy would always say, bro. I always remember this. Like, the things that we can control is our effort and our attitude. And some days, I am in a shit mood and I turn up to the locker room, but I know that affects everyone else because that that shows basically comes out in what I do in my actions, right? So I have to fix that quickly. And by being that leader, being that person, by just training with a work ethic that is second to none, that I will outwork other people, that naturally raises the vibration and energy of the group as well. And I think that it's just so key. And as you said, man, like, your boy can't speak right now, but he watches everything you do, and it's the way that you conduct yourself, the energy that you provide, it's that vibration, right? I think that that's so important. And it probably goes back to, bro, like when you were going through that time through chemotherapy and things, and then even like I go back to the first day I met you, like your attitude when you showed up to that mile test, a test that is challenging. You know that it's going to be a physical and mental battle, but you just go out there, just out the gate, and just attack it with all that energy, man. That's like what it's about. And you know what, bro, like straight from that point, I remember everyone was like, this kid has just earned respect from everyone. Like straight, like we haven't met you before, but based on your actions, it's like, wow, that's respect, because he's a guy that's going to get after it. And you know what, I can back that. We didn't even know how good of a footballer you were yet, mate, but it's like, as long as you've got that attitude and that work ethic, I think that's where the respect, and that's where people look at the action, right? And it's so key. I think that's so key, and it's so cool. You kind of mentioned like who you surround yourself with a little bit earlier as well. So have you found, like, through all of your challenges, your trials, your tribulations, and in different arenas as well, right? So I'm just going to reference that in the arena because, mate, you've been through multiple different challenges and you've mentioned that. But have you figured out that, like, the people that you surround yourself with, how important that is? And especially, like, when you're going through something at the age of 16, that would have impacted your family on quite a severe level as well. Like, I've met your family and they're just as positive people, mate. They're incredible people as well, and your mum as well. And I'm sure she was going through the absolute ringer at the time and stressed, just worrying about her boy. So, like, how important was it to have those kind of people around you at that time?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's a fantastic question. You're really diving into it, and it's funny because I've always said I think it affected them and hurt them more than it did me. Them not being able to have control and having to see it from the outside in. And they were so supportive, and I remember my high school was so supportive. Like, all my teammates shaved their heads, and that out of all the experiences that I've ever had in my life, besides my son being born, when everyone showed up to do that support system, you feel that you're not alone, and you can really feel people throwing their full weight behind you in support. And that is just such a positive tool. Like, I was just like, positive, confident energy was just oozing out of me when I showed up to do the treatment. And I remember they'd come and visit me during the sessions, my teammates, some of my classmates, my friends, my coaches, and that's everything, man. I mean, who you surround yourself is really who you'll eventually become. Like, there's a reason eagles fly at the top alone. Like, eagles fly with eagles, man. And I've really learned that. And like I said, the thing that I tell myself every single day is, can I take it to the bank? And in any aspect of life, if I read that book, I'm taking it to the bank. It's only going to help. That's an investment. If I go to the gym, if I do one more rep, I'm taking it to the bank. If I make that sale, I'm taking it to the bank. If I take my son to the playground and we have a great time, I'm taking it to the bank. That's the lifestyle I want to live. Like, am I going to get a return on investment with this individual that I'm going to hang out with? Does he make me feel good? Does he make me laugh? Can I learn from him? Or, is he doing bad habits? He's talking bad about other people. He's negative. He finds excuses. He's not encouraging me. I don't need that in my life, man. There's already enough of that, man. I'm good on that. So, like I said, I eliminate all the distractions, man. So,
how do you eliminate it if that's the case? Like, how do you go about that?
Man, what I found just personally with my personality, as I try to be super active, super productive, super busy, whether that be like wiping down the counters, folding laundry, going and working out, watching a podcast, watching a documentary, calling a buddy. I am the one thing about me, people that know me very, very well, there's two things. Number one, I'm always smiling, probably because number two, I am always asking so many questions, like to the point it'll annoy someone. But I mean, it's insane. Like, you can learn so much from sitting down with an individual. What took him 20 to 30 years of trial and error, you can learn that and eliminate a lot of the mistakes that he did. And that to me is just like, who would not do that? Like, especially older people, man, they're so wise. They've seen so many things unfold through such a long period of time. So for me, man, like, that's probably why I'm so happy, is because there's something great about each individual that I meet. I try to find the good in every single person that I meet. And like you were saying, man, there's a reason we have two ears, and one tongue, because if you're constantly listening and absorbing, I mean, it's so great. And it truly makes life feel like there's an endless amount of opportunities in whatever you choose to do. So, but yeah, man, like, I think just, like, me, Stroudy, man, like, when I met you, yeah, it can be annoying, but I probably asked you 1,000 questions on, like, how the defense plays, the strategy, what the girls were like at Missouri State, what classes was like, what table is like, study hall, all that stuff. But I mean, it just helps you kind of adapt. And like you said, the people that you're around, when you bring that energy, like, obviously people are going to have some bad days, but if you show up and you just do like one action, like you go and do like a crazy slide tackle, or you run like super hard at a fitness test, or even off the field, man, like you put in an extra hour of studying to make sure the team gets their grades up so everyone's eligible to play, and that you make your coach and your program look good at the end of the year. Not only did you guys win conference, but maintained a 3.5 GPA. Every action that you do just echoes out to everyone else, and I think that's huge, man.
yeah, it's funny that it's funny that you say what everyone else would say about you, but you know that yourself, right? Because that's such an interesting question where I think that a lot of people wouldn't actually know what other people would say because they haven't done that in a work, right? They haven't done that like self-reflection. But I would say that exactly about you, that there's two things that firstly come to mind. First of all, hard worker, extremely hard worker, and then second of all, I'd say you smile.
Oh man,
100%.
I can't ever put it on
always,
mute.
Nah,
it's always
man,
queued
it's
up.
always, but it's infectious, bro. That's it. And then the point about it's the word curious, man. Being curious, I think, is it's like a superpower. It's honestly just having the interest to try and learn more about other people and their experiences in life. And honestly, bro, like this is what I'm really enjoying about this podcast process. And some days, yeah, it can be, yeah, you know what, I might not do that research or whatnot, and it's almost 10 p.m. here. Like, I didn't have to get on this call tonight, but right, I wanted to, and we've been trying to set this up for a few weeks, so it's like, it's something that I'm really learning, and like as I go more and more into this, I'm just curious what people have to say and what experiences they've been through, what they've learned, and it's so interesting. And like, I always am very grateful for my old man. My dad's got an Irish pub back home in New Zealand, right? And so growing up, I got to work in there, started washing dishes, and then ended up going out behind the bar and interacting with customers and things like that, right? And it's pretty cool when like your dad's the owner because people treat you with a bit more like respect and things like that. It just comes naturally. But when you've got time and like, yeah, actually it's about the people service, right? It's the customer interaction. When you've got time and you can ask these questions, it's like learning what like the truck driver has done in the corner, what he's been through, and turns out he's been at university and done 2 degrees and things. It's like learning these different skills and these lessons of people. It's a superpower, man, and it's free. It's free. And when you ask better questions, you get better answers. And this is what I'm learning through this process. And I bet you've had that as well, because like you have been all across the world, like going in these different experiences, bro. When you're going through chemo, you're probably talking to doctors and things like, and you're learning all about these situations where other people have gone through it and survived, and what they've done to get through it. And it's just probably built a whole rack of knowledge that you've just processed, and as you said, you've chucked it in the bank. And I think that's so key. And now you're sharing your story with whoever clicks on this and listens, and then they're going to get some of this out of it. So it's not just the in-person, but it's being curious to do that research, to go on YouTube and actually learn that new skill. And that's something that I want to go into as well and have this conversation, because this is one thing about America, right, that pisses me off. And it's the fact that you went to college and you finished, right? You stopped playing. So for me, right, if I was American, I went to D1 college for 4 years, right? If I didn't have the opportunity to go pro to the USL, to the MLS, to something like that, bro, there's not actually that many pathways for me to pursue football or soccer anymore, right? And there's not. And then reality is that you have to make a living doing something else. So was that your case? Like whenever university was done, you had to figure out what was next? And tell me about the process of football or soccer being such a passion. And I'm actually really curious, how hard was that to be like, you know what, I've got to grow up and get a real full-time job?
Yeah, you know, man, that was the case, is especially going over. Fortunately, I had the opportunity to go over to Europe and do that system, because I just did not see a future pathway, at least to my liking, staying in the States. And I wanted to maximize soccer as much as I could before I had to get a full-time job, whether that's behind a desk or do something like that other than my dream. And it was interesting because when I went to Europe, unless you're in the system at a younger age, I mean, it is quite hard. But I remember I wanted to go to Italy after Spain, and I was looking to go play maybe in another country. And I got a weird call from Cincinnati, Ohio, and they asked if I wanted to, sell insurance. I think it just sparked something in my head where I was like, you know what? I think this is a great opportunity. And I wanted to do something that was very similar to soccer. And that's, I think, why sales was so attractive to me. Because like you said, I've really like had to like self-evaluate myself and see what I'm good at. You have to obviously understand your weaknesses, but you should definitely focus on your strengths and make those flourish. So it kind of outglows all the other things. And I was like, you know what? Like you were saying, man, like I have a good attitude. I'm a very curious person and I love to learn and connect with people. And I knew in sales that you can build great relationships because at the end of the day, you can talk business the last 5 minutes, but it's actually talking to them. How did they get in the industry? What's their family like? Actually learning about the person, connecting with them. It makes everything so much easier. And I saw it as with soccer, man, it's like the work that you put in is what you get out. If you make the calls, if you travel, if you hit those meetings, you can start to see things prosper. And there's a goal at the end of the year, and there's a goal in soccer. It's to win the season, and you try to hit your sales goal, make sure your team and company does well. But yeah, man, like that's like I said, everything is constantly changing, and I started to realize that, and I started to realize that your dreams can change and other opportunities can unfold, but it's just how you show up and the energy that you give and the reps that you're putting in. I mean, that's the only thing that you can ask for because I really think that it's not about the accolades and the results that show who you are as a person. It's what you do on a daily basis and the effort that you're putting in. And at the end of the day, it really is. It's just that desire and that effort to help other people and to really, use the talents that you have. Like I know, like if I have a goofy smile, I'm always smiling. It would be 7 a.m. I wake up, everyone's like, oh, this guy. You know what I mean? But I mean, that's what I knew I was good at. So, and like you said, man, like I remember from an early stage, you and Kyle impressed me, man, with just, like you said, like even the passing drills or waking up to go to the weight room or in the soccer games, just being calm and just hustling like that. Just seeing someone hustle, it just rubs off because I think, nonverbal communication is such a huge thing that people don't really actually focus on. And I've always said, like, someone's actions, it's a spotlight on their character. Like, you can see what they're saying, but it's really what they're putting in. It's not even about them succeeding. If I see a guy make an awful pass and then he misses a shot and then maybe he makes a bad slide tackle, but he can just forget about it and be on to the next one, that is someone who I want to be around.
The next action. So, but I think part of that, man, is having that the introspection. So being able to actually ask yourself through all of those actions, am I actually giving everything I have, and actually being okay and being able to accept the level of effort of what you just did. It's like when you go to the gym, you can be nice to yourself. You can say, I was there today. I did it. I showed up and I did it. But if you skip that extra set, or if you skip that extra rep, maybe it was when we were doing fitness in pre-season and it's like, you know what, I didn't actually touch the line on that one, or I came in 2 seconds late. That's when that's what digs at me, man. It's those little details where it's like, I did just cheat myself and I let myself away with that. And when that happens, bro, it's the same as when good things start to accumulate. When those negative things start to accumulate, it's like you can find yourself in a real shit position real quick. And you know what? I think the extra effort to maintain that level of self-respect and hold yourself accountable to those standards that you set for your life in general. And look, it may be the gym, it may be physical, it may be something else like writing down your gratitude. If you say that you're going to wake up at 6:30 a.m., wake up at 6:30 a.m. Like, get up. Don't hit snooze button. It's just the simple things like that. And I think that's the ultimate way to genuinely be really content with yourself, is to maintain those levels. And as you said, bro, if you do fuck up, if you do make that mistake, it's like, right, it's done. Next action. Like, just get on to the next thing, and all you got to do is start building that again. And I'm sure like you find that, bro, especially in the sales area. And I think that's so key. It's something that I'm actually going through right now, bro, is trying to be realistic in my career which I don't like to do, and I think a lot of athletes really struggle with it, is to actually have that conversation with yourself and understand how long you can keep doing it for, and you know that at some point it's going to end. But it's like, to understand that skill set and what you've learned in your journey is actually so compatible, and it's actually so important and relevant when you go into something like sales. So tell me, like, in the world of sales, when you stepped into that, what was it that you understood about yourself, and that what you've been through, what were some of the key lessons and values that you have that actually made you into a successful and a hard-working salesman?
Man, you're asking some very, very good questions. And, I knew my strengths coming into it. And what I've always said is, the more you do, the less you wait, man. It's a lot of large numbers. Every no gets you closer to a yes. Why worry about something that may not have been a fit at that moment, or it may not have happened? But like you said, I say focus on what I can control, and I'll start to see the sales. And it's all about the process. And fortunately, my coworkers are fantastic people. I've learned so much from them. I see how they operate, how they work. They've been doing it for years. So I try to look at what they're doing and learn. And I also, just with soccer, like you said, this is the biggest thing that I've noticed in my life, is if you stop just short of that line, or you lie about your reps, if you have to do 12 reps and you only do 10, that to me, because it all stacks, and you see like a 2-week delay, like it all adds up, man. Like all those little details will add up. And I remember, like, Cristiano Ronaldo said it. He's like, I know if I show up to the gym 30 minutes every single day, if I miss one session and then maybe next week I miss one or two, we'll add up all those times that you actually did not show up and put in the work. And I mean, it adds up, man, and it exposes you. So, if you just put in max effort and you really show up and you know who you're about, that's where I think that inner confidence comes from. You're familiar with those situations at the present moment when that opportunity presents itself. So
that's key, 100%. And it also comes down to the point where it's like, okay, if you miss that day, I'm a competitive guy, and I know that you are too, but it's like, I just think about that I know someone else is out there doing more. And it's like, I know someone else is out there training, and I don't know if it's like having a chip on your shoulder, or if it's like I think Chris Williamson talks about on Modern Wisdom. It's like one of the key things that the most successful people have is like a crippling insecurity of the fact that they're not actually good enough, or that someone else is going to outwork you. And it's like, just to have that insecurity, like, oh, someone might be better than me or outwork me, just gives you that extra bit, like, I have to show up. I have no other choice but to show up, which I think is super, super, super important. But it's also key to diversify that into multiple aspects of life at the same time. But in terms of like the actual skills, bro, like going through something like an ACL surgery and having to rebound from that, and to take, first of all, the chemo before that, and going through cancer, but to take these skills of resilience and things like that, does that often pop up in the day-to-day? Like you said, like it's just the amount of calls that you have to make, the amount of no's that you get. And I often look at Geordie Robbins, one of our old teammates, and what he does with network marketing. And mate, I got to spend 6 weeks living with him at the end of last year when I was injured, and him and his family put me up. I was sleeping on an air mattress in their spare room, and I'm so grateful for that time just in between. And I was super lost in life as well. So if Geordie's listening to this, thank you, Geordie. But one thing that I admire, and I just watched what he did with his working remotely and working from home, was just the amount of reps he puts in, man. And like he puts out so many messages to people, like just asking, and the amount of no's he gets, the amount of people that just completely ignore him, and the resilience to have that and to keep showing up and then to get the yeses and the wins. It's no wonder he's going to do absolute wonders and be successful. So is that the things that you carry across as well, just the experiences from that resilience? Yeah.
Yeah, man, and that's shout out to Jordy. I hope Jordy's listening to this because I remember prime example. Just there's individuals that you come across, and I remember after practice, I used to see him, switching the ball over the field or practicing his shots and all that, and that's something that it's infectious, man. And that's the thing is it's just the repetitions. That's where the confidence really gets built. Is because you're not taking any shortcuts. And then once you do it, you're like, okay, that wasn't so bad. Like, there's a lot of things I know I need to work on, but that wasn't so bad. And then you do it again, and you do it again, and then you start to gain confidence. You're like, okay, how far can I take this? And that's what it is, man. Like I've always said, success is a choice. It's a decision, and it's a lifestyle. Because you cannot control the results, but you know what you can control? You just keep doing it. You're like a robot. You just keep doing it. You don't lose confidence. You don't lose that energy. You don't lose the positivity. You don't, because at the end of the day, you're trying to bring value to someone. You're providing a service that brings value.
Yeah, man, but it's just, that's what I learned is, there's no shortcuts if you really want to get to that level. And I think, like you said, man, the more you do, the less you wait. And if you're not worried about how you look to others or how they may perceive you, you will connect with the right people that you're meant to connect with. And life always has a funny way of doing that. Like, if you want something, it may not give it to you at the time you want it or in the way you want it, but it will eventually present itself and you will connect with the right person. So, that's all that life is about, man, is trying to do the most you can in the present moment with the life that you're given. I mean, the universe is so big, and to understand life's purpose is crazy, but all I know is that you can just focus on, who you want to be with and the lifestyle you want to live, and it's kind of a blueprint of what you need to do, so.
Mate, you've got such wise words for someone so young at the same time with so much life ahead of you. It's incredible to hear, and I'm gonna watch this again. I'm gonna go through it obviously and edit this and go through it, but I'm gonna learn a lot, and this is something that I'm very grateful for, and thank you for sharing, because there's going to be a lot of things that people pick up. It's honestly, it's just powerful having this kind of conversation. But I'm really interested, like, what have you got, like, are you a goal setter? Do you have goals that you want to achieve, like, look forward to? Have you got things that you're planning towards? And what have you got, like, if you don't mind sharing, like, what do you want to achieve, and what have you got coming up in your life?
Yeah, man. I try to set goals into a couple categories, like professional, obviously, physical, emotional, and then spiritual, man. Those are kind of the areas that I look for. And I think it all starts with, understanding of who I am, where I'm at right now in my life, and then where I'm headed. Because I always say, I know where I'm headed. And that's, as a man, if you can say that confidently, I know where I'm headed, and I know I will get there. Everything seems to kind of fall into place. It seems like there's good luck around every corner. And I think you need to have goals and ambitions and dreams, short-term and long-term goals. Like, I want to hit my sales goal. How am I going to do that? I need to make a certain amount of calls this week. I need to, do 2 or 3 road trips every month. I need to at least see 50 people in person, face to face. And I know if I do that, I'll see everything kind of come to reality. And another thing, like I told you, man, is like take 10 minutes out of the day to just like I just pretend like I'm sitting there and I see all these thoughts up here, good or bad. But I understand that I'm not those thoughts. I don't attach myself to those thoughts. And that has helped me not only spiritually, but it's helped me emotionally, because now I have emotional intelligence. I don't try to react to certain things. If there's an individual that's, saying some words to me, trying to throw me off, I'm not coming down to his level to get in an argument. He could have something going on in his life, someone could have cut him off, or he could have lost his job. I'm not stooping down to that level. And then obviously, like, that helps me not only be a father, but to be calm, to be understanding, to be the best father, brother, friend, son, co-worker. So like it really just comes in what you want in your life and what you're constantly thinking about, because you will become that. If it's good or bad, your brain doesn't know. So that's just kind of like how I've set my goals, is I have that end vision and I kind of see everything I need to do to get to that point, short-term, long-term, So how about yourself, man? How are you handling that? Especially being away from your family, friends, in another foreign country, another language, different culture, while competing. That's a lot, man. So how have you kind of balanced all that and handled all the I guess you could say baggage that comes with that too, man.
Yeah. Great question. Yeah, it's been a challenging year, brother, and I'm very grateful for it. Someone asked me, like, when I told them I'm living alone in a foreign country, they asked me, "What's the benefits of living alone?" And my answer was, "I don't know right now, but I'll tell you afterwards," because I was really struggling at that time and I couldn't actually see any benefits. But I knew that with that kind of struggle, that good things were going to come from it. And to be honest, it's like coming up with the idea of this podcast, to diving into actually learning more about myself, to invest time in things like meditation, to breathing techniques, to figuring out where I want to be and what is important. One of the things that I've found out about myself, right, is, and it might come as a shock to some people, but football has been a massive part of my life, and I've always had this dream of being a professional footballer. Like, I'm playing semi-professional right now, technically, but I've always had this goal of being labelled as a professional footballer. And I had this moment this year when I was just going on a walk, and I was like, why the fuck am I trying to define myself whether I'm a professional or not? Like, just because of a contract or things like that. Like, I hold myself to the standards, I hold myself accountable on my day-to-day actions of how I train, how I prepare, how I play, and everything around that. So for me, I'm actually really comfortable to say that I am a professional footballer. Like, people who have that ego or centered around that idea of that I have to be labeled like that, I think that's complete bullshit. It's like, how do you look at yourself? And I don't even have to identify myself as a footballer anymore. Like, that's what I did when I was back in Missouri State, but it's like, no, I'm so much more than that, and I've got so much more value to offer. One of the things that I've really struggled with this year, bro, is this idea of my potential. And for when I've got a lot of time but I don't have a lot to do, I really find myself thinking about what more can I or should I be doing. And there's only X amount that you can do in the gym to prepare for football, to do training and become a better athlete. But then it's like, okay, what else can I do for this podcast? What else can I do in my online job? But there's also other areas where I'm actually like, I know I've got more to offer, and I just don't feel completely fulfilled. And it's just this question of like, I think that I'm made for more, which is a real challenge to try and answer. And it's something that it doesn't weigh on me, but it's something that I'm constantly asking myself. And when it comes down to being in this kind of situation, bro, when you are a semi-professional footballer, there's a lot of financial stress. There's a lot of basically just getting by, essentially. And at some point, right, like, you've got a wee man. I want to have a family one day, but I start to think about the future in terms of that, and it's like, you know what, how long and to what point can I keep doing this to then want that kind of goal in my life, right? And that's a goal of mine, to end up having a beautiful relationship, to have a family, to be somewhere secure. And these are the kind of questions that I ask myself, and yeah, they're big questions. But another thing that spending time by myself this year, it's given me the time to realize that, you know what, I went to Missouri State for a reason. There's a reason why I went through all that shit when I was there. Emotionally, in relationships, in football. There's a reason why I've been on trials at pro teams and got denied, and I've had rejections and setbacks. There's a reason for why at the end of last year, when I wanted to go on trial, I was injured and I was on Geordie's air mattress, and it brought me back to where I am today. There's a whole reason for it, and maybe my time hasn't quite come yet to be at the level, but it's given me faith that I'm going to end up in the right place at the right time for the right reason. And it may not be next year, bro. It may not. I don't know that, but it may be the year after. It may be further down the line in the distance where I'm in the right place doing the right thing for my purpose and actually fulfilling my potential. But man, that's the challenge on the day-to-day, to accept that it's going to be in the future somewhere, but not have it right now. And that's been the massive challenge. And at that point of the things that you can control, and that's what I'm trying to learn. It's like, what can I do on the day to day? What can I really control? How can I make the most? Okay, maybe I'm not in the best place that I want to be. I'm not, but how can I make the most out of this situation? Just try and make the most out of it. And for me, I've got one thing I'm really trying not to focus on is the timeline, because there's I've got something to look forward to, which is potentially going home for Christmas, spending time with my sisters who I haven't seen. I just saw Mum and Dad, which was great, but it just makes me want to go spend more time with them. And it's like, I don't want to be looking at that thing in the future and being like, oh, I'm just counting down the days to that. It's like, okay, I've got something that I know I can look forward to, but that doesn't take away from what I've got to do right now. And that is make the most of the situation and use it the best I can to continue to prepare myself for whatever's next. And who knows what that's going to be. I couldn't tell you, I wouldn't be able to tell you, but all I know is that I've got training tomorrow at 4 p.m. I'm going to turn up with the best attitude I probably can and make the most of that session. But for now, I've got this podcast and I'm trying to make the most of that at the same time. So it's like, after this, do I get a good night's sleep? Tomorrow, edit this podcast, put it out to the people ASAP so they can learn, because it's been a fucking great conversation. And yeah, man, it's just like, just making the most of what you've got at the time and still having the ambition and drive to get somewhere great, I think is such a key. And you know what, man, it's like sometimes it is hard to even find that direction. Like, there's been times where I actually think about it, and when people say I know what I want, I'm like, that's incredible, because, or if someone asks you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm like, fuck, do I know? Like, I don't know. I couldn't tell you, because that's so far down the road. I'm trying to figure out what's happening in the next 6 weeks, man. It's like, that's all I'm trying to focus on right now. And if people do have those long-term goals, that's incredible, because it does give you the ability to ask yourself, what actions do I need to take to get there, right? Which is great. It gives you a sense of direction. But if you don't know, then you've just got to really bring it down smaller and scale it to a size where you're like, okay, there's just this next step that I got to take, and what can I do to maximize that situation? And I think that's one of the most important lessons that I've actually brought out of this year as well.
Yeah, man, and I think you hit the nail on the head earlier, because a thing that I've dove into a lot was stoicism. Like you said, man, there's so much big stuff. I mean, I probably watch that every single day. Like, certain things on my are with that, like the law of attraction, stoicism, and a couple individuals, like they've got some people get after it, and know where they're going. They won't take no as an answer. They'll find ways they can knock that wall down that's in front of them. And I don't know, man. I think that there's so much. There's an abundance of opportunity. I think everyone can be successful. It's just their decision to act on it now, because you live that lifestyle right now. And it all starts with, every decision. Like, you're only one decision away to know. And like you said with this podcast, man, like, you've already chipped it away. Like, you already know the bite-sized for tomorrow with training, with how you're going to edit this content. But I know it's getting late there, man. But I wanted to say, seriously, I appreciate you having me on, and I do think that the sky's the limit. And you have the type of attitude, man, like the best is yet to come. Sure, it may not be pretty in certain moments, but that only makes you stronger, and it only makes you want it more. So it'll be worth it, brother.
Oh, gee.
So.
Oh, man. That's, it means a lot, bro. Thank you. Especially coming from yourself, man. And it's just having these conversations with a person with energy like yourself. That's what makes it worth it, man. And it makes it So it doesn't make it a job. It doesn't make it work. It makes it the reason why I wanted to do this in the first place, and that's just to find out more information and have fun and just have these cool conversations that. And honestly, bro, thank you for your wisdom, for your experiences, and for your lessons and sharing that content, because I can guarantee people will take a shitload out of this. And I mean a shitload. Like, I'm very excited to hear what people have to say. So, look, man, it's such an incredible way to wrap it up. And all I can say is that I wish you the best for whatever's coming up with your goals, with your family, with work, with your career, with life, man. And this has been a well overdue conversation anyway, but I'm really looking forward to keeping in touch and seeing where you do go, where you end up. And honestly, there's going to be I've got more questions that I could ask, so there's probably a part 2 coming down the line somewhere, but I'm looking forward to it. Yo, before you go anywhere, I just want to say a massive thank you for tuning in. We were experiencing a couple of technical difficulties, so I do apologize if some of the sound at the end there was a little bit blurry. Tried to do some editing around it to include a lot of what Nick was saying at the end, because I think that he had so many good points, and I just wanted to get as much detail and information out of that as possible. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope that you guys got something from today's conversation. I want to say a massive thank you to Nick again for showing his experience, for telling us about what he went through with his vulnerabilities and some of the toughest times and challenges he's faced. Guys, if you got value out of this, all I can ask is that you give it a like, a share it with someone that you know, because you never know that they may get something out of it, and they may take some lessons from this and use it in their life as well. And that's just the goal that we're trying to achieve here. Thank you so much for tuning into In the Arena, and we'll see you next time.